Do you understand? Do you feel the pain?
I feel the pain.
Am I only dreaming?
No, you're not dreaming. I really feel the pain.
You know what's the worst? Is that every 3 to 6 months, Ronnie will go through a phase when she plays all the music she listened to when she was a kid in Indonesia. So I've had to listen to that song maybe 2 or 3 times.
At high volume.
Pretty high. Yeah, I always say, baby, you're killing me. You're killing me now.
Softly?
with her songs, killing me softly with her songs.
So, Mr. Chef, today's a very special show. It's our last show. It's our last Monday show.
Bambos, you're really forecasting no chance for their future wonderful chaos. This is not fair.
I'm trying to get the ratings up.
Okay, yeah. It's almost like when someone dies at the end and then they have to like resurrect them in some weird contorted way. Like he really didn't die. It was his brother-in-law. They were twins. You never knew about it.
I don't know what you're watching, man, but it sounds sick. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Today we are gonna go over our favorite, the best shows.
Yeah, the best. I think we both discussed it, calling them the best, because doesn't feel good. Because in a way,
we want to avoid people getting triggered.
We would hate to think that anyone who was on a show wouldn't feel that we didn't enjoy it. I think what I saw when I went through the shows to try to pick out shows, I tried to pick out moments I remembered. So it wasn't like, oh, I really had a great time on that show. It's more like there was a real special moment on that show that I remember
and you connect to.
Yeah, and I also see that if the show is like 2 months old, it's hard for me even to remember what was in some of those shows. So
well, Andy told me just go through it and feel, but I had to actually watch some, and I didn't really have a lot of time. So
I have a lot more than you do.
Yeah, and it was really time consuming.
Same time when we did the last show like this, I was the one who came up with all the shows. Remember that? Yeah. Can I make you feel guilty about that, Bambos?
No,
I figured that much.
And so where are we gonna do that on?
Oh, I totally forgot. We're gonna do that, Bambos. Wait, what are you? Where are you? What are you?
Oh,
you're ending the show. Relax. Get off, Bambos. Do not touch anything. We're gonna do that on a wonderful chaos. I don't even want to like have you work right now.
Such a wonderful
chaos. Here we go. A little shout out to JC Barnett, who's with us. He had some struggles yesterday, so we're going to send some love his way. His, I guess you'd say his daughter, his son-in-law's mom died suddenly 2 days ago. So he reached out yesterday and just to say hi and just check in. So yeah, thanks, JC.
Much love, JC.
The best of shows. I'd say we jump right in, Bambos. I'd say we jump right in and I say I take control today. You're all over the place. What's going on with you?
I'm excited. And I just can't hide it.
You're about to lose control. I got it. We're going to start with one. And this is one I loved. It was episode 154 with Mariana Koskani. Mariana, she was a karaoke waitress. It was one of these random shows. We talked to her and she says, and I said, well, what can we do a show on? And she said, I don't know. I was a karaoke waitress. And then I said, yeah, let's just discuss that. And I had no clue how interesting that show was going to be. So I just wanted to take out a clip of one of these moments when my jaw dropped and I'm like, oh my God, this is far more like intense a work than I had anticipated. So we'll play a bit from that clip with Mariana.
Is a shame, or why can it be shameful, or why there is maybe judgment, is because the customers also could choose which hostess they want to spend time with. So there was a screen where we had our photos on,
Uh-huh.
and they could choose like, oh, I wanna sit tonight with Mariana, or I wanna sit tonight with someone else,
Uh-huh.
and there was a list. So
Oh, wow.
there was a competition going on, or some kind of competition going on between the girls. Where I think some girls were more competitive than the others, but there was a list of who's the number one hostess, who's requested more, and
Invested more.
the customers had to pay more if they requested someone. So the money that they paid for
Was
the request, it's called requests, that
yeah.
was my salary. That was so the more I was requested or asked by the customer, the more money I earned, basically.
Wow, this is fascinating. This is you see me, I'm just all over that one. So
You look like you're commenting for a football game or something.
yeah, exactly. I think some of these shows, when we really got a chance to hear what people had gone through, I would utterly be shocked, because I guess in a way I didn't have a lot of expectations, and this was a great example. When she told us that they were ranked ordered, and you walk in the bar and anyone at the top, that picture you pay more for than the bottom, and there's this whole kind of like a reality TV show going on at the karaoke bars. So I found that fascinating, and I love those type of shows when my jaw drops afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, we have some comments, and
Yeah.
and I wanna.
You want to put them on?
And JC is still taking notes. He
Nice.
says, Mimi, nice hat, Bambos Charles Dimitriou. Yes, it's the karma one. What goes around comes around. Thank you, Mimi.
She's asking where's mine, I'm sure.
I will never forget the day you guys switched.
Yeah,
seats.
that messed her brain up, because she was so used to seeing us on the other side.
Yeah.
What made that you change the seats that day?
We changed setup, right?
I don't know. You just sat in my seat. You said one day I want to sit in your seat.
Was it your seat?
I mean, I was sitting on the other side, and it was my seat. But you're like, I want to sit on the other side. All of a sudden, I was like, okay, you want to sit here, fine. But
Yeah.
you did. It just was a random act that we continued.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like that.
I think that's great.
Next.
You ready to go into another one? So, there was an.
Just go in order so we don't miss
I'm
anything.
trying to. I'm trying to.
So 271.
200. 2. It goes up, right? So this is a show which, for me, there are shows we do where, I'm thinking, wow, we're taking on really serious topics here.
Wow. Yeah.
And this was Nor Principessa. I don't. And
Principessa.
and her father was part of what's known as the Holy Land Five, and he was working. It's well known in the U.S. After 9/11, they went after nonprofits that were just helping and providing services to the West Bank. And because they were helping the West Bank, they had no real association with anything terrorist, but they just used the fact that they were helping the West Bank as a reason to throw him in prison. And he's been there for some years, and he'll be there till the end of his life, unless he gets a presidential pardon.
And I remember you connected with someone through Netflix.
Yeah, I was hoping that they're not working at Showtime, but yeah, that was what I was hoping to see, if we might support her to get a special, because it is an amazing, and there's a show. It's on our website if you want to look at it, Holy Land 5. There's a lot on it. It's really one of these sad catastrophes of the U.S. system. It's embarrassing, to be quite frank. If you look at it, you just look at America in shame. So this is her talking about the moment that her dad was pulled out by the FBI from the house. It feels like comes out of a movie.
When he walked away to the car and I saw him get into that car, I was the only one. I made sure my siblings were still asleep, and I was the only one who ran, out. And at first the FBI stopped me. There was like 30 authorities, FBI, CIA, like it was like a whole crime scene in front of our house. I ran out, I pushed them out of my way, and I ran out and I said, Baba, 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 in Arabic. And he basically, he stops, and they were going to shove him in the car, and he looks into my eyes and he says, keep your head up high. Baba. He would call me Baba, like, as a term of endearment, like, because your father did nothing wrong. And those words stayed in my heart, like, till this moment. That's what keeps my heart beating.
Yeah.
Wow, I get goosebumps with this show, Andy. This was really I mean, look at him. He's like one of the biggest hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when I called her, I don't know if you remember, when I called her to see if she wanted to join the show, I didn't know much about what the real story was. And she hadn't done an interview like this for years because she didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
So it was really, it felt, I've often told you how important it is for me to create space for people to feel safe. And that's a show where, for me, we had an opportunity to be with someone and really their greatest struggle, and let them show themselves without the feeling that they had to defend anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she kind of, I mean, how did we connect with her? She knew we had a
She
common friend.
actually wrote the article for The Last Letter. I did the tour, and she wrote an article that was in Buzzworthy, and that's how we got to know one another through that. Yeah. So that was a really great one as well. And we'll pop into another one now. This was something that I really found to be quite, like, we've had a lot of shows where we've had people who have gone into cults or who have been part of cults. And I'm always thinking before they come on, it couldn't be that bad, right? They're probably exaggerated. And then by the time they leave, I want to throw up. Like, I'm like, really? Like, I think that feels like it's a bad movie. Like, that doesn't really happen. This is one of those shows with Min Garner. It was episode 203, Raised in a Doomsday Cult. And she shared her escape. And I just thought, like, as she spoke and was sharing this, my stomach was dropping, and I thought it would be nice to go back and just.
We've had a lot of shows like this, but this one was really unique.
Yeah.
I was about 15. My sister was 11, and for months I had been saving up just the little bits of change that I could find around the house, and I literally stole money out of my mom's purse, just $1 here and there, so she wouldn't notice. And I had a plan to take a Greyhound bus to Portland to find my dad, because I hadn't spoken to him so many years, and we didn't have a phone number. We didn't even have a phone. I mean, the cult didn't allow us to have a phone. So my plan was to save up this money. I needed $54. I was about $5, $6 short. But there was this one day when they punished us so difficultly and so hard that I was like, I need to get us out. I need to get us out. I don't have enough money for my sister to go, but I have to go. And I just remember looking at my sister and telling her my plan, because I had been planning this out for months. But she had no idea. I didn't want her to worry about it, because there's really nothing she could do. And I had this little Ziploc bag in my hand, and I said, I'm going to go get a bus ticket. I'm going to go find Dad. And I promise I'll come back for you. And one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life was to crawl out that kitchen window. Every other window in the house was barred up with like plywood, because they didn't want us escaping. And also they said that at the end of days, like, evil spirits could enter into your home through windows. And so they like barred up all our windows. But that was the only one that was open, because it was the window that was facing the prophet's house. So they said, if in the event that a fire happens or whatever, because we would cry, like, we can't be locked up in the house. What if a fire happens? And then they're like, just call out for the prophet through the window,
Wow. So that was when she told, and then that story, we didn't go into it, but as it continues, she escaped the house, went to the police station, and then told the police what was going on, and the police put her back in the same house.
Yeah, they didn't believe her.
They didn't believe her. I mean, when she told me that, I was like, I lost all my faith in any, because you go to them for help. And if a police could go in and hear your story, see that the windows to your bedroom have plywood on them, it's like, Yeah.
And Bulalang says, this one was so sad for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Made me hard to believe these things actually exist today. I had the same feeling. Yeah. How can these things exist?
I think through our show, we've really, at least I've broadened my vision over. I knew nothing about America before this.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a very different view on the U.S. after this, I think, no?
Oh, fuck me.
We had one trip to Philadelphia. That was like, that's kind of as far as
Yeah, I got the memories today.
Yeah.
You saw them?
Yeah, no, I didn't see the memories, no. All I remember is we went to Philadelphia and you jogged barefoot on normal traffic streets, and that just blew my mind.
And you were lagging behind.
I know.
Huffing and puffing.
I wouldn't even be able to go half that distance today. Okay. We can pop on another one now. This was
with
Farah.
Farah
Ludwika, episode 208. And what I love about some of the episodes we bring on, like, they're subjects that are like, I'm like, oh my God, we're really going to discuss this for an hour before the show starts. And this is one of those, cheating on my partner. Like the shame and the guilt and the kind of feelings that must come up for somebody. Like, I'm going to go on to a live broadcast and share one of the worst parts of my life. And the fact that they come on and allow us this time, really, it's just, it makes me emotional just to think that they could trust us that much. So this is one of these shows where she had a deep trust. And yeah, I thought it'd be great to show a clip from that.
Yeah, it was like an internal conflict. So one part of me wanted to be with that person. The other part of me wanted to be with that person. There was no clarity. It was very foggy. I didn't know what I wanted. I remember being in that a constant phase where I had to hide something. I would have to hide my phone, delete the messages.
There's a whole managing of
the whole managing. I thought, like, having a business is easier than that.
And managing a lie.
And managing two lives.
Because you need to remember, you have to create another reality. Oh God.
Yeah. And the thing is, I thought, in one way, I thought I was very unrelatable because I thought not many people experience this. But then in other way, I thought it was very relatable, but people are just not talking about it because I wouldn't dare to talk about it. I was really like, whenever somebody found out that I cheated, it was always the same story. All the friends from that person disappeared out of my life. There's no hanging out with them. There was like this big fat big door that was slammed. And I was like,
yeah,
what's with the strawberries?
I don't know why we chose that background on that day. Wow. Yeah, when she was telling that, you could see both of us in the video feeling in our bodies how horrible it would be to be lying to two people simultaneously. You could see like and how willing she was to share it. Was the one thing, I don't know if you remember about this show, which I really loved, was that the people watching were all commenting that I've cheated. Yeah.
It gave permission.
Yeah. And that's the beauty that I've found about when we're doing this, is that there's a lot of times when we create the space which allows other people to share their experiences because other people are leading the way. Yeah. I'm going through this, but it'd be nice to check in with you how you are and where you're at the moment.
Doing really good. Ready for the next one.
Okay, good.
I am doing really good.
This was one that was not all that long ago.
Yeah.
Iamele, Mike Iamele. So this was the story, episode 252. Mike was writing a book. In the book, he was going to come out and tell people that he had it in his late 20s that he was now gay, or he wasn't gay. He had a relationship with a male.
Yeah.
He didn't say
he didn't consider himself gay.
He didn't know, but he had a relationship with a male, and he wrote a blog post because he thought, before I have this book launch, I should let people know that this is going to be in the book. And that blog post was then shared, and it was shared over 100,000 times in one night.
To the point that TV stations and big newspapers wanted to talk to him.
And now we're going to talk about, no one knows that you're gay. Everybody knows you're gay. Everyone, even everyone you don't know. He shares exactly how that process came about. So I thought it'd be fun to relive that moment with him, because it was, for me, such a wild experience.
And it feels very overwhelming. I don't know how people are going to react. I thought, well, I have this blog, and I am a writer. And what would be way better for me is to blog about it, let people all talk shit behind my back, and then come to me after they've already done their processing. And like, I don't have to handle any of that stuff. So I thought this is probably the best case scenario here. And that way nobody's mad at me when they find out about this book. And so I write a blog post. I send it in. I mean, I just share it. But one of these publications that I was writing for at the time said, oh, Mike, I really love this blog post. We've been wanting to talk about sexual fluidity. Could we republish it? And I was kind of like, well, it's out there, I guess so. Like, and I wasn't expecting much. I mean, it was a larger publication, but this was going to be like a niche vertical. This wasn't going to be something very big. So I said, okay, that's fine. So they republished what I wrote. I went to bed that night. And when I woke up the next morning, 100,000 people had shared it. And I had missed calls from NPR, from Huffington Post, from Yahoo News. I mean, it was by far the most overwhelming moment of my life to wake up knowing that millions of people are talking about your sex life. And I mean, really invasive questions, right? Like, I woke up to literally thousands of emails in my inbox, and it was just about as invasive as you can imagine. Like, I mean, some of these questions weren't questions. They were people sexualizing and fantasizing, right? So it was not actually a question. It was like, kind of like, can this fulfill my fantasy? And so it was a really weird moment, because I was also getting invitations to speak at Pride events. And I was like, I don't feel qualified for this. Like, I don't feel like this is something
You're like, I've had one relationship.
Yes,
I don't know if I'm
like,
your Pride
I don't even know what my sexuality is. You know, like, people were accusing me of things and asking me to defend sexuality that, quite frankly, I wasn't clear about. And so it was this really weird moment in my life where, I mean, we had a stalking situation where, so I'm married now to Garrett. We are married.
Yeah.
Bam. It was a great show.
Oh my.
Blew my
You know what I
mind.
found was funny was that as I heard him telling the story again, I was reacting the same way as I reacted then. I was like nodding my head, and I thought I was watching the actual video, but I was watching the recording. I have the same feeling goes through my system listening to him tell the story. Yeah, I mean, Mike Iamele, when he shared like that his life had become, it's a musical. I mean, they're making this into a musical, but when his life had become this sort of like the what you said, the quintessential love story that proves that gender is fluid. Like that story became the quintessential story. You know, both having girlfriends and finding that they loved each other because of the care that they gave to one another.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that show really blew my mind. Yeah. So this is a show that both of us actually specified independently of one another, but we chose different clips to show.
I think I picked two, right?
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, then I only have one of the ones you picked. I had the one I picked, and I thought the one you picked. So
Okay,
my mistake.
I'm curious what you picked.
So I was really interested when he, you know, I'm often feeling when someone's sharing something really intense, I'm often not wanting to say, hey, give me the gory details. Yeah. Sometimes you'll say, give me the gory details on the show, you know? Like someone says something like, it was really bad. Can you explain to me what really bad is, you know? Like when the woman on the show said that she was abused.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of hold back and you're like, can you tell me what do you mean by abuse? You know, like
what does that look like?
Oh, what does it look like? You know, sometimes I'll stray away from those questions just because it hurts too much to hear the answers even. And this is when he started to really share how it was to go through that experience of going to commit suicide. Yeah. And when I did the Last Letter tour, I would do a lot of podcasts. afterwards, people were asking me to join podcasts. And then one of the questions they'd always ask, okay. Thank you, Bambos.
I was like, what are you doing? Apparently someone shouldn't be touching the keyboard today.
I love it. You could have told me we were offline that whole time.
Oh, I thought you knew it. Andy was still talking to you guys, but I like to watch him talk.
As you can see, we were offline, but we're back now. We're going to play the same clip, and then we're going to talk about it. So this clip, just the setup was, this was an intense show, of course, for a lot of reasons, right?
It was.
It was because Ian, the day before his mother died, and his best friend had a heart attack, and there was so much going on in his life, and the fact that he chose to spend it with us and just to hold space with us was really a beautiful thing. And this was him sharing with us the moment he actually tried to commit suicide. So we discussed that with him now.
And then she said that, and I said this, right? That's an argument for you, right? And then I said, right, that's it. I grabbed my whiskey bottle. I went and got all the tablets I could find, and started to walk down the road with them. And 5 steps, swig, 5 steps, tablets, 5 steps, swig. I don't know how far I walked and came to a telephone box, and it looked like the warmest place to die. It was, our telephone boxes in the country, nicely lit. And so I went there and wanted to say goodbye to my sister. And I called her up. Now, psychologists, the analysts could have all their stories about what I was doing in that moment. But out of all those people, no thoughts for my children at that time, for what their future would look like without their dad, or how it would impact them. No thoughts for Ellie. She was the perpetrator. So fuck her that moment.
Yeah.
And my sister, though, who'd been my avid supporter, laughed at my jokes, visited me at school. This was my big sister. I had to talk to her. And I called her up and she kept talking to me. And I knew that in the background, she was trying to work out where I was with her husband and tell him to tell Ellie. And I didn't want to stop her doing that because I could feel her love for me in that moment. And I did want her to let me go. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, but I'm going.
Yeah.
And I can feel myself as I tell you that. It's literally, if you're going to make a movie of it, sliding down with my back, sliding against the window of the telephone box, and the cord, of course, barely reaches. So I've got it pulled here, and my voice could feel the bliss of the alcohol and the bliss of the drugs taking hold, and just being in that that space of I didn't have to be responsible for anything. It's the only way I could frame it for you. I no longer was responsible. I was that letting go. I was letting go of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a really hard show.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. When Ian shared on that show, he was sharing it really in touch with the moments he was sharing. And I've often seen when we have guests on who are sharing an experience, rekindling that experience in themselves as they talk, it's really hard for me, and I see it's the same for you, because in a way, we're not putting up many barriers to let in that emotion into our system. So it's as if we're experiencing with them again. And that was one of those moments where I felt a lot of that intensity. Yeah.
Yes, Purelangi was emotional.
Yeah, Boldalang was there the whole time. We should actually ask him what his favorite shows are. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought people would.
Yeah, Boldalang, others watching, it'd be great to hear what your favorite shows were. We can possibly bring those on as well as we go through the show. This was one that you chose, right?
Yeah.
Episode 259, Expanding the Talkaboutable.
I don't remember. I really don't remember what I picked, though. I don't remember the show anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's see what I picked so I can connect to it.
Yeah. What we're endeavoring is trying to create topics that people in general don't want to talk about, and giving them space to make them talk aboutable. So one of the terms that we've used says we create space. So we create space. But I also feel like, I mean, Friday's show was about suicide, and it was not an easy show. Obviously for you, we saw at the end, it was a lot of intensity. And what I'd say is that people will tend to avoid that intensity.
Yeah.
And then in avoiding it, because they don't want to feel the charge of it, the emotions that come up.
Yeah.
And what comes up for you?
Well, I think the most dark show we've had was with Chris Correll.
Yeah, the Dark Night of the Soul show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, on that show on Friday, like we did end pretty abruptly, in that we didn't necessarily need to process it on air.
No.
But you had a lot of emotions come up, and for me, you allowing space for that to just be present and let us kind of feel into what came up, and then let it be on air. That's for me expanding the talkaboutable.
Mm-hmm.
And
I see. I'm also reacting the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. What made you? Because you had a.
Well, what I love about some of our shows, especially the subject, it's really articulating the essence of what we do here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that part, and it really summarizes the whole essence of A Wonderful Chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen that, like, especially earlier shows, when you were going through so much upheaval in your life, like, since you allowed that to be brought on the show, that gave other people the spaciousness to acknowledge where that was true for them as well.
Yeah.
And I think what happens often in life is we see others and they have post the nicest things on Facebook, so they don't know how much suffering is also there. So to share that in such a place gives them a chance to say, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And so that's a gift that I feel like we've given the people that we've been with on our journey. Yeah. And quite frankly, why I keep doing the show, because I kept finding that just was a beautiful gift, just being present for everyone. This is another show that you picked.
Which one?
Ambiguous Loss.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is one that
This show had a whole different meaning for me, because when we came up with the subject, I wasn't really clear. But as soon as you started explaining what it was about, I found so many places in my life where that was true for me. And the show actually gave me permission to really let it in. I wouldn't say I was suppressing, but through having the definition of ambiguous loss, it kind of grounded it into more permission.
Yeah. Probably similar to when we had the discussions around where I'd say you're freezing, or what was the word I would use early on the shows, when you were emotionally overwhelmed, shutting down. And then we said, no, we're going to treat it as if it's a trauma response.
Yeah.
And that gave us a lot more spaciousness, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is episode 264, Ambiguous Loss.
There's a dense energy around me where people are more cautious in how they interact, and somehow we lost. I probably can never do what I did 3 years ago, which was go and hug 12 people a day for 3 months on a daily basis, because I just needed physical touch.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to go out, you need to think twice before you do that.
Yeah, can we stick on that one for a moment? Because I think that's, I remember that when we spoke about the shows, it's when we started the show, especially, there was never a theme you said we wouldn't be able to take on the show. What?
Yeah, and then there was touch, and, and that really.
And then I said, well, you're having such trouble with touch that let's bring that on the show. And you said, no, I can't do a show for an hour on touch.
I would have cried. Yeah, I would have cried the hour.
Yeah. And now we've separated emotionally a bit from that time, so it's easier to bring it on to discuss it, I guess. Or is that the case, or no?
I can go. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Go on.
And so what I saw in that was, we could leave it there. Yeah. What was the you chose that clip. So what was it that made you choose that clip?
Oh, it just unified. I forgot actually that I said we can talk about everything, and we talked about everything, and that was the one subject which I, like, just going back, I just couldn't go into it back then.
Yeah. And how many subjects we talked about?
We talked about my bank account. We talked about sex. We talked about.
We talked about so much raw stuff, and touch was the one that was so overwhelming, right?
Oh, Andy, like, Jesus fucking Christ! It was emotional for me because I was social distancing.
Yeah.
Like, I remember even I was social distancing so that I was looking after you.
Yeah.
And I was really choosing for this show. So in a way. Even now, I can feel all the emotions, like, even in my body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know, next time we do this, I just want to play our intros. That's
I thought you'd want to. I thought we'd do the clips. We do it as a compilation of all of them, but I realized I didn't have the time for that, right?
Yeah.
So some of these shows just make me laugh. Just like, and we booked this show episode 276, Strip Clubs, Toxic Relationships, and Depression, with Lisa Latimer.
267, Andy.
267, sorry. And I had not met Lisa before she came on. I think I even warned you. I'm like, I don't quite know what the show's going to be, and I'm a little bit nervous. And then she comes on, and she's like so articulate, so direct, so strong. You just feel like being in her presence, you just felt more connected. So I just thought I wanted to take one of the clips from that moment, because she was sort of sharing a little bit about that journey. And I thought, let's hear her in her words of how she described basically the shame that one might have after having gone through that in their lives.
And we don't celebrate our wins, right? We're so used to looking at something through a negative lens and a lens of regret. I almost feel like regret is like a drug. And we see so many people around us stuck in this perpetual state of regret and could have, should have, would have, that it almost feels wrong if we speed past that and go right to fulfillment and skip all that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else is there. Who am I to get ahead of that shit? But really, regret is, it's self-torture. It's self-torture. And within regrets, there are things that you can flip the script on and actually find, like you said, worth celebrating. And that's what we need to do more. We need to be celebrating shit more rather than sitting in this quicksand of regret.
Yeah, many people will.
Yeah. And I think what was really, really sweet is that for those who didn't watch that episode, Lisa, she had, I think, 2 kids with her husband by that time.
Yeah.
And her husband didn't know that she worked as a strip club dancer. He had a stroke while he was in the hospital bed. She says, "Hey, honey, there's something I got to tell you." And this had only been a year or so, maybe less, that she came on and started. And what I thought was really, really beautiful, and we've discussed or seen it a lot, is like when you fully embrace everything that you've done in your life without shame or guilt or remorse or anything, and you just laugh at that you that had to go through that to get where you are right now.
Yeah.
There's just a joy in that.
Celebration.
Yeah. And in that clip, she clearly was talking about that moment.
Yeah, there was no talking down at herself.
Yeah.
It was really like, oh, that's the experience I had to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was really cool announcing the show, though.
It was. It was like, could we put any more terms in there to add more clickbait? That was the one question that we had.
Clickbait, guys, that's the trick.
Yeah. So just another word to like just make it a little bit more enticing. Oh, this is another one, right? We've really got into the Christian cult scene. And because these stories are so remarkable, I thought we had to bring one more on.
Go on.
This is episode 268, Growing Up in a Christian Cult with Rachel Roberts. And she shares a little bit about that. And I thought, let's like bring her on to discuss a little bit what she shared on that. You said earlier that God is relative. My dad always said to me, I am God.
Can we slow down?
Yeah. I want to slow down a sec. I made a mistake. This episode.
I picked it.
You picked it.
Yeah. And I picked this moment, and that's the moment we were talking about earlier.
And I wanted to talk about, because when I saw you pick this moment, I wanted to at least point something out on it.
Yeah.
These are the moments which is why I do this show. Because in that moment, we were in a very uncomfortable, what I felt to be uncomfortable moment, which you felt as well, where she had said exactly that she had been abused. And both of us felt the discomfort, clearly, because we both sort of, we angled around it a little bit. And then you didn't do that. You said, no, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Let's go. And this is one of these moments that I cherish, because from that moment forward on this show, this changed the show dynamic completely. So yeah. I wanted to enter it again, and we'll start this now again.
I feel for actually leaving right now.
Really?
I'm sitting here with you, and I'm seeing the little girl in you sitting there and having to deal with that belt. And I'm just really sick in my body right now. And I know you said, oh, everyone has abuse, but still I'm feeling that as a visceral experience. And
I had the same.
And I don't want to skip it. Like in my body, it says, ah. And the fact that you're even sitting here right now with 2 men, and you said yes to the interview without even knowing what kind of men we are, that touches me even deeper.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. That's I appreciate that. I appreciate this is the first time I've been gotten kind of teary on an interview. So thank you. That's kind of you to say. And I think that when it comes to this shared energy that you're picking up on right now, the only way I know how to deal with it is to, like I said earlier, convert it into something positive and constructive and life affirming into the world. And so even though I'm just now having the privilege to meet you guys, I appreciate that to know that you two are out there and illuminating stories like this and sharing your care and compassion for people, because we think about the people in Afghanistan, just like you mentioned earlier. I mean, what I experienced growing up was nothing compared to what the girls and women there are experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still kind of brings me to stillness.
Yeah, you see when she felt seen for that moment, how, and I think most people have that moment when they're not used to being seen, because it's so easy to talk over one another or not really pay attention. So in you saying, we're not going to just jump over this, we're going to stay with you there where it's not easy, that created an incredible moment for all of us on that one show. Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah, I am.
Looks like you got a lot of emotions going on in yourself right now. Is that the case, or is
obviously
you're reliving all of these?
I'm not suppressing anything.
Oh,
It just
yeah.
feels
okay. Well, please share if there's stuff that comes up. Or 269.
falling forward, Andy.
This was another one you chose.
I need to see again the scene to remember why I picked it.
There's me meditating. You notice I often close my eyes on the show. Like I close to kind of take stuff in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of these moments. I'm not sleeping, but let's listen and we'll see what we think. Okay. Yeah, I would almost want to reframe it, the fear. And I would say there's joy in knowing that it was always an experiment. Like that's how I live life. Like I kind of feel that there's only working experiments. And whatever those experiments give me back, I celebrate them because I knew or learned something that I didn't know before. And that way, I always try to tell you, I don't like managing against the negative. I try not to be in life where I'm like, I don't want to feel bad. So I'm just going to say it's not a bad thing. Like, I want to be like, no, I knew that it was an experiment and I'm going to now take it as something I've now learned. Yeah, that's how I like to frame these things.
Okay, but
is that it?
Yeah.
So what was it that made that clip or that show then important?
Well, actually, this was one of the. We haven't been doing a lot of mentoring on the show, but this for me was really again a discovery. Just that kind of shifted the way I saw falling forward. Like,
oh yeah,
because as I said, I always say, "Oh, I feel the fear, but I'm still going to do it." And you were saying, "No, it's an experiment." And from the experiment, there's a kind of joyful tapping into the aliveness of the moment. That was really
I love that.
I have to say, since this show, it also shifted how I feel about Cyprus.
Yeah.
And it feels it, and it didn't happen on an intellectual level, but more in a physical. Like my body feels it now.
Yeah. So there's been some shows when we've discussed these topics and you said to me, Andy, you feel that way because of where you are in life, right? Your age or
yeah, sure.
And yet I still see in this case, if you sense how it feels to be in that state of mind, you can nurture more of that in your mind. I do. I mean, everything that I talk about it's all working experiments. And then and I'm happy that it only took us 274 shows to get to that point.
It did, didn't it?
We have I think maybe one more that we've selected, if I'm not mistaken. Might be the last one of the ones we had set out. We're going to go through more, but that would be the one that we have set out. Here is learning how to take care of myself with
Lia Zorzu.
Lia Zorzu, and you chose this one as well.
Yeah.
taking care of myself means not cooking. Well, you know, we can live as a family, healthy family. That you know, I love my husband and my son, and I take care of them. But there are days that I don't want to cook, so we'll have takeaway or something frozen. I don't care. Before I would make sure, or I would feel guilty. I could, you know, maybe I would have done the same, but I would feel really guilty. Now I will just say, what kind of takeaway do you want?
Κυρία Κοντόπουλο, γύρω σας παρακαλώ.
Hey, by the way,
Yes,
but
and my
does
son
he-
loves takeaway now, of course.
I was going to say, does he also arrange the takeaway, or do you do that? Have you said, guys, I'm not even going to arrange it, or do you still even arrange the takeaway?
No. There are days that my husband will do the work, and some
Okay.
days I will do. The other big thing for me was taking some rest at lunchtime. You know, after, you know, I have an amazing work-life balance. I don't work more than 2 hours per day. Some days I don't work at all. So I want to take care of myself. You know, after lunch, after I have worked a few hours, I will have a nap for 20 minutes, lying in bed, even if I don't sleep. This is my time. So the door closes and no one's coming in because mommy is going.
Nice. I really like that clip, but you could talk about it because you put it on.
No, it's really like a woman who her whole life lived in a certain paradigm of I need to be like this, I need to be caring, and there was a definition to that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden to see her sharing, I don't want to cook, like as
Yeah.
simple as that.
Yeah.
Like that for me was like, yes.
Do you realize that when we were on the show with her, there was a lot of time where we actually didn't get to the point she described exactly what she did? Like we had to ask that question a few times.
Yeah.
But when she answered it, it was almost like this, like the gates of heaven sort of opened up. It was like, oh, like I think when people say self-love or self-care, they don't really understand how simple it is. I'm not going to do the cooking every night. That's self-care.
Yeah, but you know, in her context, there are consequences, and apparently, I think she dealt with it pretty well.
Yeah, I think she dealt with it very, very well. Yeah. I thought it might be nice to kind of look through more of the shows, and also just to kind of give just to look through and just to say, hey, there's certain shows, what jumps out at us, and talk about them. Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right now, guys.
Is that good for you?
Yeah.
And there's some shows that I thought we might put on, but I didn't, and I thought let's.
Which one are you going for?
I'm just going to go for the whole thing. We can pick out shows if we want while we're here, right? So this is the YouTube channel for Wonderful Chaos. We can go down because
274 episodes, guys.
274. I did pick out some from the like the old history, but I think one of them that was really quite special was when we walked through the cemetery, episode 180, discussing death. And I know that, I don't know for you, it probably was the most discussed show we've ever done. I got more people like writing to me before and after than any other show. I actually had someone from high school I hadn't spoken to in 30 years call me before this show because they were so touched that we were going to be taking that subject on. So yeah, that was one that was pretty big for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to do more of those shows outdoor.
Oh yeah.
It was a complete experiment, right?
Yeah. I think next year I'd love to spend more time outdoors doing those for sure. Yeah. That was, I'm going down, just looking at some of the ones. Of course, we love our shows with Peter Koenig because he's just a gem of an individual. One of the shows as well we didn't touch, but that have done really well as well are the ones that we did with Bobby Deutsch. Bobby Deutsch, we done the creativity show with him, and we did the intuition show with him. And those have been shows that people really enjoyed as well. You know what's nice? I didn't pick the show out. I think the show that people really loved was when you took on Single and Ashamed. When you took on Single and Ashamed, this was Ronnie and I interviewed you.
Yeah.
And I know this show touched so many people because so many people had similar feelings, and you just came on and owned it. So we can see if there's a clip here. I don't know. We'll try it out. I didn't prep it, but
I have to say, I felt sick to my stomach at the idea of doing this podcast. Like, I cried several times today. Because I feel I'm one of my intentions of doing this podcast was also I don't want to live in the shadows anymore, and I think in a way I just don't want to hide anymore.
yeah. Yeah.
It was really nice to have you and Ronnie.
Yeah. That's pretty random that's where I clicked on the video to play, my friend. My God. Yeah, that was one of these shows that I got a lot of people coming to me afterwards and saying what it meant to them.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I did that show, the paradox was after the show, I no longer felt.
Yeah.
And then the other paradox was I had a lot of.
You had all the women coming after you to say, "I want to come and talk to you. I want to help you out."
I got a few massage. It was beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it was. But I saw that we also discussed it a bit. It was a little bit challenging because letting it go was what you wanted. You didn't want someone to come in and save you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that was
Just go down. Go to our first.
Okay, let me.
Since we're here.
Oh, since you're here, you want to go down to shows we've already done. This goes to shows we've already done.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and share then. Make sure other people can see what we're seeing as we're doing this.
We have 3 more minutes, by the way.
No, we don't. We can take it longer. Okay, so tell me where you're. Remember the Our Relationship show? That was a fun one.
Press.
The 130? No, we don't need to press that. You want to press the 130? I'll press it if you want, but I don't remember.
So we did this show because a lot of people were confused about our connection. A lot of people were judging Andy because sometimes he would come across as being too harsh.
Yeah, because I would mentor sometimes. Yeah. And it was confusing because people didn't necessarily know that was part of the roles that we have actually accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see episode 127 where we actually discussed the differences and the commonalities of coaching versus mentoring.
Yeah.
So it just felt that was a natural progression from 127.
Yeah, it was. It's really nice because we see episode 124 here. And one of the best parts of the show is bringing on people like Bolalang, who we've also had on the show, and JC Barnett, who is a swim coach for 30 years, and just bringing them on because they're also, they're guests on the show as well as they're avid watchers, which is really, really has really been sweet. Yeah.
Uncovering the secret of sexual abuse. That wasn't the puppet one, right?
No, that was that's another thing we haven't, is that one of the sadder things of doing the show is a lot of people we've had on the show have died.
Yeah.
I think we've had 3 to 4 guests that we've been with that are no longer living. So that's also been a little bit of a kind of a blessing that we had a chance to be with them, but a sadness like, wow, like we were one of the last places that they actually had
we had from nun to dominatrix.
Yeah. On that show. That was the last show she did.
What a saint of a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, she had.
I think she died a few days later.
Yeah, a few days later. Yeah. We also have fun things like I am a dwarf, right? Remember Becca Curran?
Andy has these quirks. Like I would have a transvestite. I would have
Yeah.
a dwarf.
You're right. I'm like a traveling clown show. I want some of everything, you know. But I mean, what I love with Becky was that we really got to like spend time with her. She just had a baby about a week ago.
Wow.
And we discussed having baby on the show. I don't know if you remember that, but it was one of the topics, and it wasn't the easy part of our show, right? Because there were additional risks that came on because of that. And show number 120, Escaping an Abusive Relationship. This was a really incredible show because a friend of mine, and when she came on, like we really got a chance to hear like that intense experience of leaving that abuse. And the as she'd shared her story of herself driving off as quick as she could, like I felt like I was watching a movie. That's how some of these shows had some intensity, and that was one of those really, really intense moments. Yeah.
I grabbed episode Dying Out Loud.
Yeah.
And he that was inspiring.
David Warnock. Yeah. Yeah.
Like as soon as you discover that you have a kind of deadline, and we all have an expiry there, of course, but he actually had one for sure.
Yeah, he has ALS, right?
Have you had contact with him since?
Yeah, he was actually supposed to be at the house this week, and he canceled the trip.
He's the athlete.
Yeah. No, that's another individual. But
oh,
someone else that canceled. But David Warnock, like hearing him share, like he has a year or two to live, and I'm just living. And he did this whole project called Dying Out Loud.
Yeah.
It was really sweet. Yeah. And I think one of the things that we both was really intense for me was he came on to talk about ALS, right? And we have a friend whose father was dying of ALS on his deathbed, literally days away. And he showed a video of him watching our video. And I kept thinking to myself, the guy has got hours to live. Why the hell is he watching us? You know? So there was something quite sad and beautiful about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love episode 111, Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
My high school friend who's taken the role in the mom of the house, Ted Lowe. That was beautiful for me because, of course, I love spending time with friends. But it was one of these things where you dig into the complexity of giving up all of the things that kind of make you the man of the house.
Yeah.
And
what that means and
Yeah.
how life looks like when you take your kids to the playground.
Yeah.
Like, that was really fun.
That was very fun, you know.
Because he fully owned it.
Yeah, he did not try to protect or play or anything. That was really, really, really incredible.
Episode 108 jumps on me also, Andy.
Yeah, what was? Oh yeah,
so that's the show where, what was her name?
Regina.
Yeah, Regina. She actually died.
Yeah, that was just a few months ago.
Having had experienced sexual abuse herself, she eventually went on a journey creating these puppets and going to schools, and through the actual play puppet show was designed to trigger children that had been sexually abused. And in that way they had also individuals like authorities who would take care of the kids from that point on.
Yeah, very intense.
That show was really intense.
Yeah, that she was also, I wrote about her in The Wounded Healer, because she hadn't talked about the man who molested her when she was a child, and that was what she shared. And it was really incredible for her to, you know, in her 80s, that's the first time she wrote a letter to the man who basically he abducted her, and she wrote a letter to him in the session. So yeah, it was quite something. One other thing, one of these other shows, just go to here quickly before you go down there. I was going to go there as well. 110, I Hold Your Hand When You're Tripping. That show, that also got a very strong viewership, one of the most ever, because people are so fascinated that her job was just to hold people's hands as they did LSD and as they did what do you say it? The mushrooms, psychedelics. So yeah, that was really a fascinating show for people, because who holds your hand when you're having an acid trip and calls that a job? Yeah. So that was really a fascinating one as well. Yeah. Episode 101. I love the picture you picked, dipping your finger in the honey.
Look at us, we're really having fun. My dear friend Yasmijn Schroefer is a documentarist, and when she's going to make a film, she'll go the extra mile. So she did this job for, I think, just over half a year.
Yeah.
Like she dedicated 3 days a week or something, just waxing private parts.
Yeah.
And kind of, as she's doing that, kind of exploring the theme of the documentary.
Yeah. That was wild.
Yeah, I can't
like,
believe that she's
taking on topics like that has been so much fun. Just random topics, like we're gonna do someone that waxes vaginas and talk about. And that show was actually fascinating, because in talking to Yasmijn, we really did get to learn how the relationship of a woman to their sexuality is part of waxing, and was part of that journey that she also accompanied them on. Yeah. So that was another aspect of this, which I found very fascinating.
Yeah. And she also shared how many women are disconnected from that part of their bodies.
Yeah.
Like that was really touching also.
Yeah. And that she would have been the first person that would have ever touched sometimes that part of the body of the woman outside of themselves.
With hair.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, touched in the sense of, to take away the hair. Some of the shows that did really, really well, or also the shows I did with Ronnie. People really enjoyed those shows a lot. And I think it was nice because in a way, it's like they get to see a little bit behind the curtain. Like this is what life looks like with Andy
and his wife.
So I enjoyed just,
you guys are vibing,
having Ronnie on, and people really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
And my favorite show, the one that really, like, I watched a few times just to, I think in my life, what I love about you and why I spend time with you is you're consistent, and your relationship with Ronnie is not separate from that consistency. And like, you don't just talk, you live. So this show was really beautiful for me to watch you guys share that love. And thank you.
Yeah.
And I love that Ronnie was so open to doing that.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think at that point, I didn't necessarily trust myself to ask her. So I said, this is open. Are you open to doing this? And she said, yeah, sure. And I thought that was and she fully owned her role. It was really sweet to be with her on the show. I don't feel like she was any different on air than off air. In fact, someone told me they were uncomfortable watching that show because they said, watching it, I felt like I was a voyeur into your life.
Yeah.
And I thought, I didn't seem weird to me because that's just life. So I didn't necessarily find it abnormal. But that was, we have our Cautious When We Speak, or Cautious When I Speak with Bolalong. And the great thing about the Bolalong show was that when he came on, I found out that the show title was totally wrong. He says, I'm not cautious when I speak.
I'm actually very direct when I speak.
Exactly. And I asked him, well, why did you allow this title? He said, we got to start somewhere. You understood A Wonderful Chaos very well. That we got to start somewhere. So
beautiful.
Yeah. And we did 2 shows, of course, with Kenny Johnson, episode 196. And that was incredible as well. He spent 20 years in jail and got out. And that was really, really, really special. Yeah.
Like, you got to imagine. So these were when he came on, it was in our first 100 shows. So it was still evolving. So some of the topics we were tackling blew my mind. Like, where the hell did these people come from?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for those that don't know, on the bookings of shows, I'd often book and you wouldn't know what the show title was going to be 2 minutes before you got on air. You'd be like, okay, what are we talking about today, Andy? And then all of a sudden I just see your face what?
Sometimes you'd also forget, though.
Oh, what do you mean? Of course I forget.
We booked it half a year ago.
I liked how when you would greet people, assuming everyone knew me. So how do you know Andy? And they're like, I don't know Andy. It's like, oh, we've gotten to, because the first 100 shows, I got everyone I knew on. And then after that, I'm like, oh, damn, I don't know more than this number of people, right?
Yeah, we started picking my network, right?
Yeah, we started picking other networks.
And you started also going onto Facebook pages.
Yeah, there's Facebook pages. A lot of people like posting on Facebook. Some of those things caught my eye. Some of the people got angry at me because they saw us and they wanted to be on the show, and I just said no. You know, like you'd think that I'd say yes to everything if you looked, but I think the one thing we've often said was the criteria is we're looking for people who are embodied. Your story can be any story, but we want you to be present in your story.
Yeah.
Not sharing it as a memory you've shared 100 times before, but be with us and allow us to kind of feel into it with you. And it takes a special person to allow others to be with them in their story. And that's been part of what has given me joy here. So
yeah,
I'm happy we had that time together with all these people. So many more shows. As I look through it, I don't even want to, I could go.
So this is our last Monday show, guys.
Yeah. Bambos is like, you know, I want you to sing I Did It My Way, you know, the Frank Sinatra song.
I Did It My Way.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see. We're not going away, Bambos. We're taking a long hiatus.
We're taking a long hiatus.
You may
but this is our last Monday, guys.
You may get married. Anna may be the new Anna Dimitrios. And maybe
I think I like her last name.
Yeah, you'll take her last name. Okay, Bambos.
Tomorrow, guys.
What do we have tomorrow?
Oh God, fuck me.
It's your favorite topic, Bambos.
So Andy even told me maybe you don't want to be part of this one because it's discussing the donut economy, because it's not going to be so emotional.
Yes.
But who knows? Maybe.
Who knows? You might ask him, like, what's his deepest pain
when it comes to the donut economy.
We will see you tomorrow on.
Yes.